something had changed in the post-World War II era. Once upon a time, you could just kill black people, if you were white, with total impunity. In fact, if you were going to have a lynching, you could even advertise it in the local newspaper, and the local newspaper would say, we're going to lynch whoever. We're going to yank him out of jail if he's in jail, and we'll string him up on such and such a tree at such and such a time and such a date, and people would come out, white people, with their kids, to watch this ugly, brutal lynching. By the time we got to Mississippi, that had really changed. One reason it changed was World War II. You had these World War II veterans who had been fighting in Europe or Asia who were not inclined to take a whole lot of crap. And white people are aware of this. Secondly, and importantly, I think, the 1957 Civil Rights Act changed the dynamic, because what the 1957 Civil Rights Act did, and it was a very weak act, but what it did do was establish a civil rights division in the Justice Department, which empowered Justice Department agencies to investigate violence and the denial of certain rights. That you could no longer, as Bob Moses puts it, be made to disappear if you were working on civil rights. It's harder to do that. I mean, obviously it didn't eliminate violence, but it changes the dynamic a little bit. So once upon a time, in addition to when the mayor has me arrested for these shootings, I might have been snatched out of jail by some mob and strung up on some tree somewhere out in the woods. In 1962, when this happens, I think they let me go the next morning. It reflects a changed dynamic. So all of these things combined to force whites who are inclined to engage in acts of violence to do it covertly. So if you look at the violence in the 1960s, it's not like the violence of the 1930s. Medgar Evers is killed by Byron D. LeBeckwith, who's hiding in bushes across the street from his house, and he's stepping out of his car with an armload of NAACP t-shirts when he's gunned down. Those kids in Birmingham at the 16th Street Baptist Church are blown up because Klansmen have snuck up to the church and planted sticks of dynamite beneath the church. Almost all of the violence is not open or one-on-one. It's covert. The whites know that they can't just openly kill people the way they used to be able to. So something has changed. As Charles Payne in his book, I've Got the Light of Freedom, puts it, he said, these nighttime marauders were learning that the people they were shooting at were increasingly inclined to shoot back. And this really changes the dynamic of violence, which I think is important to understanding how violence unfolded in Mississippi in the decade of the 1960s.